No, I'm Not a Human is a first-person horror puzzle game where the sun is causing baking hot temperatures every day, and every night human-like people called visitors try to get into your home with murderous intent. The game is available on Steam. Atmosphere. The game's atmosphere encapsulates a dreamlike distrust and confusion. The visuals are unnerving and unnatural. You see horrifying things like figures in the distance, masked men in the fields next to your neighbor's burning home. The story tells you of the world ending, and it's apparent all around you, and the dreadful feeling you get from it is hard to ignore. The music gives off a slightly warped version of relaxation or sends chills down your spine as you look through the spy hole to see who or what is outside. There's something about the green tint and the unsettling faces looking at you through your front door that adds a level of paranoia, but there's still a sense of safety, that the door will stop them from getting in, but it won't prevent you from having to let them in, since being alone is an apparent risk. None of the people outside appear harmless, and everyone seems a little off, either in design or temperament. There's always room for doubt, and letting in something that isn't human into your home can be disastrous since visitors will kill humans during the night. The game's mechanics sees you trying to figure out who is and who isn't human based on a series of questions and tests you can perform. And as the primary mechanic, it works in theory, but in execution there were far too many false positives and confusing factors to ever really feel confident in your choices. But in execution, there were far too many false positives and confusing factors to ever really feel confident in your choices. It felt more like luck than deduction when it came to pulling the trigger and executing who you deemed to be a visitor. And this was the recurring cycle. People were taken or died in the night, you tested during the day, and then the next night you'd have to let more people in, or a certain non-human will try and break into your house if you don't have company. Some die, some disappear, the cycle continues, and as the morning sun vanquishes the horrible night, you can see who is left among the living. Regardless of how effective the mechanics are at deducing anything, the atmosphere maintains that surreal uneasiness and distrust that never really went away. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. There's only really one or two frightening moments in the game, and that's one of the death scenes. Outside it, there isn't really much else. Some of the interactions with people outside your door can be deeply unsettling, and probing them for answers will leave an ominous feeling, but the game isn't really trying to startle you, more horrify you with the events unfolding outside your home. The non-human stands in the field behind your house, ominously watching. It's unsettling, but sadly not quite frightening. That's still one Harry Mason. Sound design. There's only a few sound effects in the game, from the unpleasant neck snapping to the sounds of pulling back skin or lifting up your arms when you do an examination, to the final, powerful blast of the shotgun as you execute someone. The music, however, does a fair bit of heavy lifting for the atmosphere. The main theme of each night changes subtly, starting off as a somewhat relaxing but woeful synth melody that degrades and drops in tone and coherence until it's desperately trying to be heard underneath its own failing tune and the waves of static and scratchy vinyl sounds that layer over it. Characters have their own themes, from the eerie super visitor to the somewhat hopeful yet still melancholic prophet, and it makes each interaction feel special. There's voice acting in the way that you can hear people's unsettling mumbles and cries from their doors as you pass them at night, and it's really strange and unsettling. It didn't really need to have any directional audio or reverb for what it presents in either, and the game had a surprising amount of audio content, even if a lot of it is very subtle changes on a single piece of music. Ultimately, it's really good for what it is. That's 2 Harry Masons. Gore. There's unpleasant and gross parts of the game to do with the testing, with plenty of people having unique and very real abnormalities that can throw off an inspection, as well as the kind of reaction you'd expect from checking people's armpits and ears for parasites and fungus. Outside of this, the real gore is surprisingly censored, and shooting anyone results in a red pixelated mess. It's hard to say that it's a problem, but it seems like an odd choice regardless to censor the gore. The game's gore is still present despite this, and can be both gross and disgusting in equal measure to make the testing even less pleasant than it already is. That's 3 Harry Masons. Story. A solar flare has resulted in unbelievably hot temperatures during the day, leading to everyone hiding when the sun's out and coming out at night to seek shelter in people's homes. But at the same time, that there are tales of visitors coming out of the ground who are human-like, but decidedly not human. There's a few ways to figure out what's going on in the outside world, with the TV and radio keeping you up to date on the decline of humanity, though it's a very filtered resource, and whilst you sense things are bad, they're still broadcasting, so there's some hope. A large portion of the game is talking to people about the things that have happened, either before you let them into your home or afterwards. There's quite a lot of different people who arrive at your home, and the conversations all feel pretty unique. Though perhaps the most impactful and damning aspect of the story is staring out your windows every night as you watch your neighbour's home and life destroyed, FEMA operatives walking around the fields, and the super visitor performing various horrifying acts outside your home, and it really paints a grim picture, towns burning in the distance, but yet more come to stay in your home. There's a ton of pathways the game can take, with many different endings based on what you say or do, and it's not a long game either to try and get all the other endings and experience all the other lines of dialogue and possibilities presented by the game. Overall, there's quite a lot in there, and it all adds up quite nicely to either fuel more dread for the game's future, or to add more creepy backstories to the people you let into your home. Making the final score 4 out of 5 Harry Masons. The main gameplay mechanic makes the point of testing seem almost pointless, and as the game went on, it became a little frustrating to feel confident that someone was a visitor and execute them and find out that they weren't, despite showing multiple signs. But again, I'm here to review the horror, and the game is certainly creepy and unsettling. Again, I'd like to remind you, the whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games. If you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I tried not to stay alone at night, I eventually let them all in. But I advise you don't do that either. There will always be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. Always go check out Bumps in the Middle of the Night. Peace.